Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is Lee Weinstein, President of Syscom Services. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Looks like we have a great turnout today. So what we're going to talk about today is the ROI of Cloud Faxing and how it affects efficiency and saves you money and time. And with that, we have Ken Romo from OpenText, a longtime veteran of the industry, who's going to walk us through the benefits of this. So, Ken, do you want to give an overview of what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, as mentioned, I'm with OpenText. I'd like to thank Syscom for inviting us in today to participate in this webinar. So, I've been in the business many, many years, have designed, implemented, and integrated some of the world's largest fax systems. So, I feel qualified to do the presentation. A little bit on OpenText. We are the #1 global fax leader, both on-premise and our cloud faxing. More importantly, we'll in the webinar, we're going to discuss also our hybrid version. So we have the best of both worlds. So Syscom now has the entire platform, so it can offer our customers any breed of fax they want. And more importantly, it's the best of breed. We're about a $2 billion company, 8,000 employees, and a lot of the emphasis on the company is cloud. In general. Gartner, estimates that 50% of all businesses that have fax servers will shift their infrastructure to an outsourcing service. So a lot of the work we do these days, we're seeing our on-premise customers at least starting to look at it, and more importantly, a lot of them are either going to our hybrid platform or full cloud.
Actually, this is Lee again. One thing I should mention too, we've been working with Ken for 15 years, but we've been working with RightFax as a product for almost 25 years, almost since its inception. Also, too, as we will be answering questions later, if you have questions that come up while Ken's speaking, if you'll just message them to us, Christy will be taking all the questions, and we'll try to answer as many as possible, as many as time allows when we finish up here. Back to you, Ken.
Thanks, Lee. So what are we seeing in the market that's driving these conversations and leading our customers to look at this? Well, there's some major contributions out there that are leading to these discussions. Global IT consolidation. So, just like our company, we're a company that acquires other companies. IT forces are downsizing, and there's mandates to consolidate all these resources. So fax truly is a version of voice and data. So it's a little more complex than just rolling out an application in an environment. So hence the reason why the cloud's so important. Security, compliance, all the largest healthcare, financial, governments, all are on our platforms. We're able to meet those compliances. And lastly, what we're seeing is a lot of transition from what we call old telephony, TDM, to new IP-based telephony. What's happening is these old infrastructures, unless you have the proper equipment, gateways, et cetera, to do fax over IP, a lot of our legacy customers are making that transition because of the investment there. As well as there's new technologies out there on the telephony side like SIP trunking. And I would say, my advice on that is make sure you contact Syscom because there's a lot of caveats to that. Some of the providers work. These days, however, a lot of them do not. Just a quick graphic here of how the business is growing. I always like to give an example. I've been working with a large box store for about 10 years now. I haven't lost to them, but the point of the story is 10 years ago, they were convinced fax was going away. So they keep buying these little devices and putting them in. Long story short, 10 years later, their faxing volume has quadrupled. And so, again, a lot of times we see customers who are opting out for that OpEx instead of CapEx. They're not making the investment because technology is changing. However, as you can see, it's a steadily growing market. And so that's kind of what we're trying to show here. So what type of deployments do we have? I mentioned a little bit earlier that, we have all versions of fax. So RightFax is our on-premise version. It's the market-leading on-premise fax server out there. What we're calling hybrid is the mix between our cloud and our hosted fax-to-mail service. So fax-to-mail being the market-leading enterprise total cloud solution out there. We've married the best of both worlds, and we're coming up with a hybrid version called RightFax Connect. So it's very important for you to know, however, that a lot of enterprise customers, we see all three platforms there. And if you're considering, Connect for your RightFax architecture, please keep in mind that it's very flexible and scalable. And what I mean by that is that you don't have to pull out the telephony you have now. You could just add on the Connect, or in fact, the conversation here is ROI. You can literally pull out all your telephony infrastructure, keep your RightFax on-premise, as well as on the fax-to-mail side, absolutely no software, nothing touches the on-prem. So again, depending on your solution, your requirements, we have all the market-leading solutions for you. So what is hybrid? It's the on-prem RightFax server plus our cloud-based fax solution, fax-to-mail, and again, that's what we're calling the hybrid version. It's RightFax Connect, that's the name of it. The requirements there is you have to have one of the latest versions of RightFax, 10.5 Feature Pack 1. But it's the only cloud-based service out there that's supported with RightFax. And I would tell you the configuration in loading this is there's one configuration page. Last month I was working with a customer at a large university. One of our salespeople. They were having tons of issues with their IP infrastructure. They just put in a brand new Cisco environment. We literally in 2 hours were able to fax enable their RightFax server for all their outbound faxes, about 3,000 or 4,000 pages an hour. So it was a very, very quick and easy thing to do. CIOs are looking at technology, or looking at the cloud. Before OpenText acquired our cloud service, we didn't have an option. So again, today, we are the market leading in all the platforms. So any of those conversations, we have the best of breed solutions for those. Security, we have an entire department on our cloud side just dedicated to security. But again, the way I like to answer the security answers, largest insurance companies, healthcare, financial institutions are able to meet all their compliances, HIPAA, PCI, with the cloud. So to break it up a little bit, it's easy, it's fast, flexible, cost savings, and we'll hit a slide on each one of these. So on the easy side, as mentioned, if you want to, you can completely rip out your RightFax telephony infrastructure. If you're new RightFax, then you don't have to worry about bringing in PRI lines, or if you're thinking about doing fax over IP, any gateways, easy to implement, easy to add new numbers. In fact, there's a portal that if you'd like, it's self-service. If you're going to do hundreds of numbers, often we recommend going through our support. It's fast, implemented. Again, as I mentioned, there's one configuration page on the Connect, and extremely flexible. So I want to talk a little bit more about flexibility. It's not only flexible, but it's redundant as well. So it's highly available. You're no longer limited to the number of channels that you have on a RightFax server. So for instance, if you have a full T1, 24 channels, once you go to send that 25th fax and those channels are pegged, you have to wait till one of those channels is not busy. So with the Cloud Fax in the hybrid version, literally burstable traffic is supported. On the inbound side, we use things like never busy, and then more importantly, it's redundant. Cost savings, again, no fax machines, no telephony, no PRIs, nothing associated with the telephony side is required anymore. Secure, absolutely secure, encrypted from end to end, and we also have options on the service as well, things like what we call a HIPAA viewer, and it's up to you. It's manageable, it's configurable if you want your fax to live there for a day or two, maybe up to 30 days, or have that fax immediately removed once it's pulled down or delivered. You have that option. It's the capacity on it. I just ran a test about a week ago, and the way it was designed, our developers were given a requirement. Today, our RightFax on-premise server has the capability of doing 120 physical fax channels. So the requirement for our developers was to take a RightFax application and have that same capacity. So you can have up to 16 dock transport servers times 120 channels. However, with the RightFax Connect, I sent about 20,000 pages, about 3,000 faxes in 1 hour. So if you were to build out a RightFax infrastructure, that would be the equivalent of having over 300 physical channels. So again, the speed, the scalability, the flexibility is all there. A self-service portal, all the information. Your users, if you're on RightFax today, will not know the difference if they're sending through RightFax Connect or that local analog line on a board. All the history is there, all the information, all the metadata is still there. You know, the ROI on it is incredible. I mean, you know, we have customers who have old servers that are being dated. They have to keep up the operating systems. You know, if you're still doing fax boards, those boards, the PCIX formats, et cetera, the vendors are always changing that. So again, you know, going to a Connect infrastructure reduces those costs. Security, it is secured end-to-end. The details of that, it is an HTTPS connection. Port 443 is the only port that we require you to open if you're going to put this behind the firewall. Most people do. Additionally, that is the standard de facto protocol that's supported in the product. We will support anything. If you need a VPN, if you need multiple VPNs, whatever the security requirements are, because we have a global infrastructure, worldwide environment, we're able to meet those needs. Again, most of our customers do use the HTTPS because of the flexibility and the multiple internet connections they often have. So how does it work? Here's a simple diagram. On the left-hand side is the RightFax infrastructure. In the middle is your firewall. The cloud up there is what we call RightFax Connect. Then off to the right is the PSTN, all the fax machines out there. So on the outbound side, it's identical. And in fact, there's, you know, as I mentioned, one configuration page. So you set up what we call a dialing rule on the fax server, point it to RightFax Connect, and now all those faxes that are associated with that go out of the cloud. The server still does all the conversion. All faxes are TIFF, so it's still a true client-server application, as well as maintains all that data. Sends it out to the cloud. The service delivers that fax, and you still control all the retries, everything at the fax server. Once the cloud receives it, it delivers it and sends the notification back to RightFax. And I like to call it a near real-time notification. And again, the experience that you have with RightFax today, it's going to be nearly identical. You literally won't know unless you go into the history file, because there's a job number associated with every fax delivered on the cloud, and now that will be matched up with the RightFax unique ID. On the inbound side, as mentioned, you know, highly available, redundant. Your customers are dialing into the service. So it's, you know, we have multiple locations. We're international. We have a global footprint. I think later in the presentation here, you'll see what major markets we cover. And RightFax is always initiating the conversation with a web services API. So when that fax does hit the service, RightFax will pick it up, pull that fax down, and again, you decide if you want that to be deleted right away from your server. We also have the concept of what we call data sovereignty. So if you have an international footprint and your customers require that no faxes enter the U.S., we now have a feature right in RightFax. The options are, I think it says U.S. and Europe, I believe. And so if you select one or the other, then your faxes will either stay domestic or international. So you have that flexibility as well. I talked about never busy, thousands of ports around the world. When I asked the team there in our global infrastructure, they say rarely do we ever hit 65% of our capacity. So we advertise this, and then again, we back it up with statistics. If you sign an NDA, all this information is available as well. So, you know, when I look at RightFax Connect, Pure Cloud, and Hybrid, one of the reasons I see Connect being very popular is that it still has a lot of those integrations that customers have already either written to our API or they have a fleet of MFPs out there. And just so you know, any of that integration work, any of the business flows, any of our clients that you're using, if you decide to go to RightFax Connect, that doesn't change at all. The same user experience. And again, everything from our back-end integration application, MFP, and our clients, that all remains the same. So here's an example. Say you have your headquarters in Houston. You have multiple sites throughout the country. you can centrally manage your RightFax infrastructure by using RightFax Connect. Because what you can do in all these other cities, in New York, is offer your customers a local number. It'll be, when they dial your number, again, it's going into the service, into our cloud service. So to them, they think they're, dialing you across the street from Los Angeles, Seattle, whatever the case may be. But because we have the infrastructure at your headquarters in Houston, you're able to manage, maintain all those local faxes in one location. Our most popular client today is our email client. So again, on the inbound side, a fax comes in from New York City, you're sitting in your Houston office, that fax is dialed, delivered to the service, and it'll pop up in your Outlook if you're using an Outlook client right in Houston. So again, the flexibility. I also mentioned a self-service portal. Say you needed another number in Miami, you log onto the portal, put in that area code, and activate that number. Within 30 minutes, you have that local Latin number. Here's where our data centers are internationally as well as domestically. We have 2 major data centers in the U.S. And again, as part of our SOC 2 certification, we have to fail over between those. We always like to give the example of Hurricane Sandy, where we lost none of our customers, because one of our data centers that is out there lost any functionality. In fact, we had customers come to us because the service they were with did go down. So again, you can see that we're in most of the major markets, as well as I mentioned to you, data sovereignty. If that's a requirement, we can segment that fax traffic for you. Business continuity, DRHA. What I see more and more in the enterprise is going to a virtual environment. So RightFax Connect allows you to have a virtual RightFax server. And so what that means from a high availability and disaster recovery standpoint is now there's no telephony, whereas before if you had a board in Chicago, your data center was in Atlanta, you'd have to have that like-to-like functionality. Well, now because that telephony is out of the picture and you're using our cloud service, as far as HA and DA, all you need is at least 2 connections. We have a concept of either what we call a remote dock transport or shared services. So what you can do is have an active connection, so should you lose a RightFax server or dock transport, you always have inbound and outbound functionality. We even have customers who absolutely have to have their fax service up, and they'll even go to the extent of bringing in 2 ISPs into their environment. So they'll go with Time Warner and then maybe Comcast IP services. And again, because the service is dock transport and shared services aware, you can have one account manage your entire enterprise for that redundancy. So again, customers that we're looking at that are thinking about transitioning, an important point to note here is that if you port your fax numbers to the cloud, they are still clearly written in the contract your numbers. So for any reason you want to leave the service, they're your numbers. We mentioned this because our competitors aren't so friendly. And additionally, if you were to acquire numbers from us while you're on the platform, again, those numbers belong to you. So anything you port to us, anything you get from us, absolutely your ownership. Here's our inbound number availability. As you can see, we are in all the major markets. So on the diagram, the green is where we can give you an inbound local number for your fax service. So again, another reason I'm seeing a lot of people go to RightFax Connect is because they made an acquisition, or internationally they've been tasked to go down to 1 or 2 data centers. So again, it lends itself to that flexibility and scalability quite nicely. So again, just to summarize, I've been covering how RightFax Connect works. If you're a new customer, that's an option. But what we're really seeing is our legacy customers now looking at this cloud option. And again, because it is so easy to configure, a lot of times they'll take that step. But what we're seeing more and more is those same customers, as well as new customers, going to the full cloud solution. They don't want to have any infrastructure. Their IT space is growing. And so we're able to, with fax to mail, offer any integration that RightFax does. We do it in a couple of different ways. Obviously, at the desktop, the platform called fax to mail, so any email client But as far as back-end applications, you know, the EMRs, the ERPs of the world, you know, we actually have some standard built like SAP integrations. But again, because we have such a powerful API and development tools, it's very, very easy for us to enable any of these applications. So just like I showed you the diagram with Write Fax Connect, here's the diagram with fax to mail. And so again, you know, I mentioned on the Write Fax side, even with the fax to mail option, you still can connect your MFD, MFP devices to it. You have the email client on that side, and then again, any integration. And so as opposed to having an on-premise server, now no software on board, and again, telephony, redundant. And in fact, they are the same two platforms. They're the identical platforms on the sending and receiving. So as far as security, compliance, they all have those same features. So how do you send a fax to mail? Again, any email client, open your email, write in the to-line. An example would be fax number at faxtomail.com, and off it goes. You get a notification back. We are just now bringing up a new reporting portal that's going to give, for instance, your administrator who maybe wants to do bill back or something, the ability to write his own custom reports. Fax is transmitted and delivered to the recipient. So again, a very, very elegant, easy way to enable your faxing needs. On the inbound side, the reverse side goes into your the service, delivers to your email client. What's not shown here is our APIs. Again, if you have a back-end application, it's that same functionality, but as opposed to an email client, it's an API integration. So again, just like we had on Write Fax Connect, a quick diagram on some of the key benefits. It's email driven, so there's no training involved. People are very, very familiar. They work day to day in their email clients. So, you know, it increases productivity. You're able to offer that same experience, but now give the power of faxing both inbound and outbound to your customer base. Very productive. Allows users to send, you know, directly from their desktop. They don't have to stand up, go to a fax machine, and again, they get the notification right back in their desktop as well. We talked about redundant, and again, remember this is the same cloud infrastructure. So multiple data sites, it's a service your customers are dialing into, and again, it's always up, and it's redundant. Very flexible. A lot of our customers we're seeing, because just like our company, we often acquire companies. You might have somebody on Lotus Notes, somebody on Gmail, someone on Exchange. With fax to mail, it doesn't matter. We work across all platforms, so extremely flexible. Cost effective. There is no infrastructure at all. There's no on-premise software. There's no telephony infrastructure, nothing to support in the data center. So again, very, very cost effective. We talked about security. At rest, it's encrypted in transit and from end to end. We use 128-bit AES encryption. And again, this is configurable. You can decide if you want immediate document deletion, and you know, if you want it to stay up there 30 days, 20 days, a week. Again, very, very configurable. Documents are archived with encryption enabled. That's a feature as well. And then at the customer end, you know, if you have a back-end archiving system, again, you can use that as well. I talked about our SOC 2. That's the certification that we go through. So if anyone wants that information, all you have to do is sign an NDA. As far as compliancy, security, we support Sarbanes-Oxley, HIPAA. I talked about the data sovereignty, the U.S. and European safe harbor. Customer security audits. I mean, we often have customers who actually come to our data centers as well. So we're very flexible, we're open, we'll give you any information you need to get your Fax Cloud solution out there. Scalability, as I mentioned, we just now starting a new reporting portal, so you can do your own custom reports. On the client side, you know, we have a print to fax client, and then as well as our integrations, we have a SOAP XML, we have web services API. So again, the pure cloud is very, very flexible. And again, what we're seeing in the market is kind of the transition from on-prem some customers going to connect, and then eventually full cloud. So we have a case study here. We have a customer down in Australia who, they're one of the largest building contractors down there. So they had some on-premise fax solutions. They were using the service as well. But what they were able to do is consolidate, because they were actually having a lot of fax failures. So they had consolidated. We wrote a couple custom integrations, and they were able to fax worldwide their global infrastructure to provide their customers with a single point in their own country, in their own local latitude, with a fax service both in and out. So again, just to summarize, on-prem, hybrid, full cloud, Syscom, OpenText, market-leading solutions.
Great, thanks, Ken. That was outstanding. So it looks like we had a bunch of questions come in, so time permitting, Christy, do you want to ask a couple of the questions, ones that we can squeeze in?
Sure. Hi, everybody. This is Christy Gundin. I'm the marketing manager at Syscom. I've been keeping track of some of the chats that have been coming through, and while I'm reading those, I'm also going to unmute the lines. So if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask in a minute, the lines will be open to be able to ask those questions. So the first question that I have is, it says, currently we have WriteFax on-premise and we don't have DR. Does cloud offer DR for our network?
So absolutely. In fact, that's one of the reasons a lot of customers are looking at, especially the hybrid version. All that's required for redundant, flexible, dynamic, burstable traffic is an internet connection. And again, I think I hit it briefly, but the way customers are doing it, they're either standing up a single server and then having a virtual environment fail over, but the beauty behind that is because there's no telephony, they can have their backup site go to their data center that, you know, may be in another state. So again, we have several solutions how to do it, but more importantly, extremely flexible, and the cloud is absolutely ready.
Okay,
Great.
Thank you, Ken. I have one other question, and that is, we just acquired a company in the UK. Is your network global?
So absolutely. So not only can we offer numbers in the UK, we can also do what we call data sovereignty. So if it's a requirement for none of those faxes to even hit U.S. premise or go through our U.S. data centers, we can segment that off, and that's a feature built right into WriteFax.
Great. Do we have time for one more, Christy? It looks like there's maybe just take one more of the questions.
Yeah, I was just wondering if anybody else on the line at this point had a question that they wanted to offer.
Yeah, I have this is John from Athena Healthcare in Boston. Yeah, hi, Ken.
Hey, John.
Yeah, just very quickly, you talked at length about security, but if you could drill down a little bit deeper into the security. As you know, we're large premise-based users, but we are evaluating cloud offerings. So, but our patient information is extremely sensitive, as you know. So if you could drill down a little bit deeper into security, that would help.
Yeah, so specifically on the hybrid version or the pure cloud, or both?
I think both.
Okay, so I'll start with WriteFax Connect. So WriteFax Connect is an on-premise WriteFax server, and the service that delivers a fax is called a dock transport service. So that either sends the fax to a local telephony fax board, or in this case, it's going to send it to the cloud. So it packages that up, and once you've selected WriteFax Connect, it begins the encryption. So before it even delivers it, it's encrypted end-to-end and even transmission. And then by the nature of the connection, HTTPS, SSL, that's a secure connection as well as it's encrypted. Even once it hits the service, it's still encrypted. And we have features on the service, for instance, called a HIPAA viewer. So not even our staff on the cloud, if they were, they were doing troubleshootings or something, they can never open that fax and see the image. So again, to summarize, it's encrypted from end to end, even while it resides on the service, cannot be viewed. And then again, you have the ability to say, how long that fax lives in there. So on the outbound side, once we get an OK transmission, you can have it deleted immediately. On the inbound side, once WriteFax pulls that, gets that information, pulls it down, then it'll delete that fax as well. On the pure cloud side, it's the same type. We use the same type of encryption. However, because on the outbound side there is no application, that the cloud acts like the client-server application. So it'll convert your document. All that work's done on the cloud. But from a security point, again, encrypted from end to end. And same if you're going to use one of our APIs, as well as, I'm not sure you heard, the comment is if you do require a dedicated VPN, we support that as well. In fact, we have customers who have multiple VPNs into our infrastructure for data, for high availability and disaster recovery. Additionally, I think we have an NDA with you. We have the security details, and we can send you our SOC 2 audit that covers it. I mean, down to every bit and byte that's transferred.
That's great. Thank you.
Did you want anything, Paul?
Good.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Well, Ken, thank you so much. And to everybody on the line, we really appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for that great turnout. If you have any further questions, feel free to go to syscomservices.com, or you can always email info@syscomservices.com, and we'll answer any of the questions that maybe you think of after this call.
And we will have this recorded and available on demand later this week. So thank you very much. Everybody enjoy the rest of your days.
Great. Thanks, everyone.